Hi, friends. Welcome to the first ever Music Prose podcast, broadcasting from Studio 770, the beautiful Blueberry Suite, this fun new room they've built here. I am so happy that they did this. I have been wanting to do a podcast for quite some time, but frankly, I'm not a tech person. Nor do I really have the wherewithal to sit down and learn how to be a tech person. So, super happy that they built this room and made this nice and easy for everybody to come in and do their podcast thing. I decided just a few weeks ago to actually make it real, and I posted on my Facebook that I was thinking about doing this and got a lot of interesting responses about what I should talk about. But the general consensus was music, since that's pretty much my life. So here we are. This is the Music Prose podcast. I chose the name Prose, Prose, for very specific reasons. Prose definition is written or spoken language in its ordinary form without metrical structure. So that's what I want this to be. I want this to be a very free forum type of place where we can just talk about all things music and gig life and kind of life in general too, but mostly centered around working in the music industry. Who am I, you ask? Maybe you didn't, but you're about to. So let me tell you. Well, my name is Clulee. I have been performing in some capacity pretty much my entire life, mostly music, but I did also do dance and did some theater, done all sorts of fun things, gymnastics, blew out my knee. But, that's that's another story. That's a different podcast. I don't know. We may get into that here. Who knows? Here I go prosing on about things. But I started Suzuki Method violin. That was my first instrument when I was 4 years old. I have often wondered, now that I teach music too, how in the world my mother got me to do that at 4 years old, to focus and really learn an instrument like that. Especially not the easiest instrument. But I think, as you can see, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. Well, maybe you can't see. If you're listening, you can't see. But things were a little different when I was 4 as opposed to these days. And I think it was a way to keep me out of trouble, keep me occupied, but also to give me that musical education. My parents were very much into music. There was always music in the house. My mother actually played piano, and I think she said she played clarinet in her high school band. I wasn't there for that. I think she still had a clarinet, though. I think there was one in the house. That wasn't something I ever played, but I did start tinkering on the piano at a young age. She got me into violin lessons, and she actually played an instrument called the harpsichord as well. My dad built her a harpsichord from a kit, but still, he built a harpsichord in his wood shop in our basement. It was amazing, right? That's kind of a fun thing to do. So they played in a Baroque trio. Mom would play the harpsichord. Dad played the recorder. And there was a third who played viola da gamba. And Marguerite, I still remember her name. That's crazy. They would dress up in their little Baroque outfits, hats and all, and go out and play. So that was my first, I guess, gigging experience, was watching my parents go out and do that. Now, you would think that maybe I'd have gone the Baroque direction. Oh, no. I mean, I started with the classical stuff. I did start with the violin at 4. At some point in elementary school, I was switched to viola for about a year, mostly because nobody else in the orchestra wanted to play it. And they decided that I was good enough at the violin and at reading music by then that I could switch and do that successfully. Elementary school successful, right? And then I ended up switching over to the cello, and I stuck with that, actually. Cello stuck with me for pretty much the rest of my school career, at least. So I was the ultimate music geek in high school. I played my alto sax, which I had picked up, I don't know, sometime around maybe 8 years old. I just always liked the sound of it. Told my mom that. She went and bought me one. Brought it home, put it together, started playing it. Pretty cool. So I played sax in the concert, marching, and jazz bands. Oh, yes. And I played my cello in the orchestra, and I sang soprano in the choir. Not really sure why soprano has a British accent, but it does. Who knows? Maybe it's because I like Julie Andrews. There was a time I really wanted to be Mary Poppins. Practically perfect in every way. So, here we go. Now, my main instrument these days is voice, and well, it has been for quite some time, but I'm not honestly sure when that started. I believe that it was my violin teacher, Mr. Harris, who was the first person to have me actually sing something. And I actually remember wanting to sing a song for my mom. And so when she came to pick me up from my lesson, we had prepared a piece. I believe it was Send in the Clowns, even. God, I can't remember. I can't believe I remember what song it was. But maybe because it was such a traumatic experience, I really wanted to sing this song for my mom. And so he's playing it and I'm singing it. And I guess I made some sort of boo-boo. I don't know what the boo-boo was, but I made a boo-boo. And he stopped me mid-song. And I was just mortified, so upset, left there bawling because I didn't get to finish singing the song for my mom. Mom was cool about it, though. And then I went on to start singing in community events. There was, what did I say, a shrine club? Something like that. I grew up in a small town. And just the local mall, community things. There was, I think, a neighboring community. I don't think it was our little town. I think it was actually my grandparents' town that started putting on a little community version of Hee Haw, an old country comedy television show you youngsters have never heard of, but Google it. It was amusing. It was amusing. And so they put on their own little version of that and would have me sing there and tell jokes. So, yes, I've been a performer forever. And I don't know, probably around high school was when I realized that's what I wanted to do forever. I thought of other job things, of course, other potential fields of study. And one of the other few that interested me was psychology. But I think that's, believe it or not, related to music. And we can talk about that at another time. We'll get into music, psychology, and therapy maybe in one of our next shows. We've got plenty of episodes coming up to discuss things like that. So after high school, well, actually, let's talk about my senior year because that changed a lot of things too. Throughout high school, it was the marching, concert, and jazz bands and the orchestra. And I even played in the local college's orchestra while I was still in high school, which was kind of awesome that they invited me to come and do that. So it was all, not all classical, but mostly classical and a little bit of jazz. Listened to my parents' Baroque music and I listened to my mom's country. And my dad would listen to the Rolling Stones and the Beatles. And he even drove a little Beetle for a while. That was fun. So there were other types of music, but I wasn't performing them so much until my senior year in high school. I grabbed a couple of guys from the jazz band and we put together a little rock thing. We performed a rock song in our senior talent show. Both guitar players, yes, two guitar players, both playing flying V's. Another thing you can Google if you don't know what those are. The ultimate 80s rock guitars. So that was a lot of fun. And I think that's where the monster was really created. Being on that stage, rocking out, feeling that energy. I was a bit of a loner in high school too. So it was also amusing to me that the day after the talent show, people were coming up to me in the halls of school. And people who, either didn't know my name or didn't give me the time of day the day before suddenly were like, "Hey, Crystal." Like, okay, all right. I see how this works. Okay. Some of them I gave the time of day back. Some I still don't. Yeah, high school's rough. That's a whole other story. So that started the rebellious stage. Did the whole rock band thing. Started playing in covers bands again in my small town. Oh my gosh. I was playing in bars before I was old enough to even be there. I had one place in particular that would hide me in the kitchen if somebody came in that they thought looked like they could be a narc. They're going to bust us. You got to go hide. So, lots of fun memories with that. I did day jobs, quote unquote, day jobs, normal jobs for quite some time as well, until I got laid off from a job. And mom said she would help me go back to school, college, if I wanted. And I said, only if it's a music school. So I ended up with a partial scholarship to Berklee College of Music. So I moved on up to Boston. Moving on up. Oh, am I going to get in trouble? Using cover songs like that? Nobody knows what that is, too. So I got my partial scholarship to Berklee, which is in Boston, moved up there, and I started teaching while I was in Boston as well. That's where the teaching career began. I was older when I got there, not fresh out of high school, because again, the whole day job thing for a little while. So I was a little older by the time I got to Berklee, and I wanted to live by myself, have an apartment rather than live in the dorms. So I needed work. I needed a job. I had a part-time work-study job as well, and decided that I would go check out some local recording studios. So there was a recording studio directly across the street from one of the main Berklee buildings. I think it was called Bristol Recording and Voice Studios. So went over there with my CD, yes, CD demo in hand, and handed it to the manager, said, hey, I'm a singer looking for studio work. So he checked it out and said, you're pretty good. Let me show this to my manager or owner or somebody. So he did. And yeah, I believe it was the owner, because he was the manager. And then the owner came out, listened to it a little bit as well, and said, hey, you're really great, but we don't have a lot of studio work, session work for people right now, but we need a teacher. And at first I'm like, I don't know how to do that. I don't know what I just know how to do what I'm doing. I don't know how to show someone else how to do it. That seems weird. But it turned out he had his own little book and method, exercises and things. So I signed on. I think I signed a 1-year deal to teach with them using their method. And as I continued that, I discovered there were things about his method that I really liked, and then things that I wasn't super excited about or thought I would probably do differently. So that's where I started developing my own teaching style as well. Now, that studio, I believe we only taught voice, and then I ended up branching out into teaching piano as well, a little bit of music theory. Nowadays, I teach singing piano, and I've come back around to my first instrument, violin. So I am teaching violin as well these days, beginning violin, because it's been so long since I really studied it that I don't know that I'm qualified to do advanced anymore. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. So while I was in Boston, again, I was already doing the cover band thing. I was excited to get to Berklee and feel like I was among people with similar goals and ideas and dreams and all that fun stuff. It didn't feel as much that way as I wanted it to. It felt very cliquey, but I did my best to experience everything. I joined a classic rock ensemble. I joined a funk ensemble. I did a jazz, of course, it's a jazz school, so you have to do the jazz thing. I did a musical theater thing where I got to fulfill a lifelong dream, oh yes, of playing Sandy in Grease. Yeah, I wanted to be Olivia Newton-John when I was a kid. Who didn't, right? Well, I don't know. Maybe some of you wanted to be John Travolta. I don't know. Anyway, so I did everything that I could, experienced all of it. They have a production and engineering program there at Berklee, so there was also opportunities for recording. I remember one recording in particular was super fun. Somebody had to do a recording of a commercial using a pop song. So they did a beer commercial, Miller Lite, to the tune of Michael Jackson's Thriller. Oh, yeah. Cause this is Thriller. Nope. Cause this is Miller Lite. That was hysterical. Never forget that. So, did all of those things, but also still wanted to be out there performing, and found myself another cover band, wedding band, while in Boston. And we were called Cahoots. We were one of Boston's top, actually, wedding bands at that time, which was pretty awesome. Very busy, probably close to 100 weddings a year. And that doesn't sound like a lot until you realize there's only 52 weeks, right? So it was a lot. And that's, I think, where my performance really, really opened up and grew. Playing with the caliber of players that I was in that band with really opened up my confidence, my repertoire, having to sing everything from, we would start with jazz, dinner music, soft stuff, what they now today call yacht rock, right? The soft things. And so for the dinner set, then we would break out the dance music, some of the rock stuff. So having to be versatile and get through all kinds of songs from all kinds of genres was an eye-opening and ear-opening, shall we say, experience. A lot of fun. And the members of that band were mostly other Berkeley cats, and they were just incredible, incredible musicians and singers and people too. A side note, when you spend that much time with a band, and mostly on weekends, you don't get much of a social life. So the band becomes the family, the friends. And I will never forget that feeling of family that I had with that group. Still love all of them to this day. So that band, let's see, their first bass player left the band to tour with, I believe it was jazz guitarist John Schofield. So, and then somebody else that I can't recall. It's been a few years. And then the next bass player after that ended up leaving the band to tour. He did a tour with Mariah Carey, did a summer tour with her. He did a tour or two with Michelle Indeggio, and has backed Michael McDonald, Sarah Bareilles, and is now on TV every night. The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, he is now a member of the Roots. So weird that I get to watch a former bandmate on TV. I'm so excited for him. It's wonderful. It's wonderful to see. And then one of our drummers has toured with, God, Kanye West, Lady Gaga, Ed Sheeran, Queen Latifah. I mean, these people, like I said, this is the caliber of musicians that I was working with at that time, and really made me step up and be a better singer and performer than I even knew I could be. So I'm forever grateful for that experience. I wasn't sure about moving to Boston at first, and as much as I wasn't 100% sure that I was in love with Berkeley all the time, not saying anything bad, just, it wasn't exactly what I expected it to be. That's all. But yeah, my move to Boston was huge influence in my life. Absolutely changed a lot of things, a lot of directions for me. It's also kind of think when I discovered that I'm more of a soul singer. I always thought that I was a rock singer until then. Well, okay, again, we started with the classical stuff, and then we moved on to the community pop things and rock and whatnot. So once I got to that wedding band, we were doing a lot more R&B and soul. So that's where that kind of shift happened. Then I ended up moving out to California, and let's see, I've been here about 20 years now, I believe. Still doing cover gigs. I was in an 80s cover band for, actually a couple of 80s cover bands for several years. That was happening for quite some time. I felt like I got pigeonholed a little bit in that for a while, but it also felt really good to know that I was somebody that people would call, especially if they just needed even a sub, that they trusted me, that I could just walk in and do a good job. So I'm pretty proud of that. I think that's a pretty big accomplishment. And I've had to also diversify a little more, branch out since I've been here. The wedding band business in California is not quite what it was in New England. New England, your wedding sucked if you didn't have a live band. California, DJs kind of have a little hold on that market. So, again, branching out, doing the other thing, cover bands, funk and soul cover band I ended up in also kind of changed courses for me because our keyboard player with that band is a distant cousin, apparently, of Sly Stone. And while I was with them, he ended up getting contacted by Sly, who wanted to fire his entire band for whatever reason. He was unhappy with people and he fired the whole band, called my friend Corey and said, put me a band together. So made Corey MD. And apparently he actually asked specifically for a white girl that could sing. I mean, sang. So I ended up getting that call and got to do some really, really fun shows backing up Sly Stone, including Coachella 2010, which that one, it was super exciting. Oh my God, I'm going to be playing at Coachella. Yay. My mom even stayed up on the other coast to watch the web stream, but it wasn't everything we had hoped it would be. Some things went wrong with that show. But still a great experience. Corey and I still make music together these days, so that's another fun just connection that I've made and friend that music has brought me. Music brings a lot of things together, and that's one of the things that I think that we'll talk about. I want to talk in our upcoming episodes about all things music related, like I said, gig related. I want to talk about how to get gigs, how to keep them, how to prepare for them, learning songs, the right attire, the right whatevers. Keeping the gig refers to things like staying prepared, staying fresh on the material, knowing your job, but also being easy to work with, being pleasant, because even if you're a virtuoso, if you're a jerk, nobody's going to want you around. So those kinds of things. Then also we'll talk in some episodes about how to stay healthy while gigging, because that's obviously important. I just recently actually had to cancel a studio session because I lost my voice. I was still able to make it through a live gig, thank goodness. Didn't have to cancel that, but I did have to move a studio session around. Allergies are a bitch. So staying healthy, keeping yourself going. It is a wild and crazy industry. It's an absolute roller coaster. Gigs can be feast or famine. So that brings up the topic of diversifying, being able to play different genres, different kinds of venues, also teaching. Like I said, I still teach these days. I host live band karaoke as well, which isn't me singing, but it's music. It's like karaoke with scrolling lyrics and all that fun stuff, but with live musicians playing. So that's actually super fun in a different way. We're creating memories and moments for people that otherwise might not get to experience what we musicians do, which is that magic of being on stage and performing and feeling the energy, the thrill when you're really vibing with your other bandmates and with your audience. There's really nothing quite like it. That is partly why I stay, partly why I keep doing it. It's not an easy career choice. And sometimes I personally don't even feel like it's a choice. It's a calling. It's a thing that I have to do. It is part of me. I don't know who I am without it, frankly. I had a friend, actually, that studio manager back in Boston, where I had my first teaching position, had once said to someone about me, not to me, which is weird. I don't know why he didn't say it to me, but he said to someone else about me the thing about Crystal is that she sings like her life depends on it. I think he meant that as a compliment. But whether he did or not, I took it that way, and I think to a degree that's true. Like I said, I don't know who I am without it. If I woke up tomorrow and couldn't sing anymore, I don't know what I'd be. I'm sure I'd figure something out. But I just literally yesterday had a student ask me, if you had a choice to be blind or deaf, what would you choose? And of course, I had to answer, both would suck. But if I had to choose one or the other, I think I'd have to choose blind, because deaf would mean never hearing music again. And that's not a thing I can even imagine. It's too important. It's too important to me in my life and to a lot of people I know. So I'm going to start having guests for these upcoming episodes. You don't have to listen to me ramble on as we continue. I want to have guests on to talk about their experiences, some that I have worked with personally, some that maybe I have not, some people with different perspectives. I want to talk to people who have jobs related to the music industry, but perhaps not performing, like music therapy, which I kind of alluded to earlier. I have an acquaintance who does a yoga class for singers. Yes, yoga specifically for singers. So things like that, that goes into the staying healthy stuff. That's related to that. And then there's also, well, the music therapy, or just therapy in general, staying sane in this wild and crazy industry we're in, and being able to hang on to that roller coaster as it goes. I think that, life is an interesting ride. It's tough at times, and this life is not easy, like I said, but it is full of really beautiful, magical moments. And I think that's what we just have to hold on to. We have to hold on to those moments that we get, and forget about the crash you feel after you come down from the high, and hold on to the hope or the knowledge that there's going to be more magical moments that are coming up, right? And looking forward to those. And so I hope that you will look forward to these next episodes and continue this journey with me as I talk about this crazy life, and start talking to some other people, and we'll have a lot of fun together, learning, laughing, and experiencing the wild and crazy music industry together. My guests are going to be grunts, basically, other music professionals, not the famous celebrities you see on MTV or whatever. Does MTV even do music anymore? They should change their name. Anyway, we're not the big names in general. We're the behind the scenes, unsung heroes, if you will. And the reason that you have a cover band to dance to at your favorite watering hole on a Friday night, or a nice little jazz trio performing in the background as you're eating your fancy dinner, right? That's us. And who knows, though? Maybe as we grow, I can get some bigger names to come in and talk to us about their experiences and why they chose to stay in this industry, and how they're doing now. That kind of fun stuff. So for now, I'm going to say good day. Thank you so much again for joining me here at the first ever Music Prose podcast. I'm excited about this new direction in my musical journey. Actually, I guess technically this isn't music, but it's related. We'll tell gig stories. We'll laugh, cry, and have a great time. Learn things. Who knows? We'll change the world, right? So for now, again, I say good day, and I hope that the rest of your day is filled out with those magical musical moments. And we'll see you next time at Music Prose.